You're listening to the Frequency and Flow podcast, episode number 32. And in this episode, I'm speaking with Tiffany Hinton of Cultivating Guts, all about how to follow her lit up generator sacral response to build her newly pivoted business. So let's dive in. So Tiffany is another friend that I have from a mastermind that I'm in, and I have known her for about the past year or so. What I didn't know about her previously was I knew a little bit about her pivot, but I didn't understand the true journey that she had, where she had come pre 2020 to where she is now. I met her in the I met her in 2021. Gosh, it's 2022 now. Sometimes I still forget, even though it's well into the year. But when I met her, she already had this new business underway, and which was a humongous pivot from the success that she found pre 2020, where she was well known, doing a lot of in person events. And then all of a sudden, 2020 happened and she was grounded. And she started a new business that is very different. Her target audience, her niche is very different from the audience that she had before. But when we spoke in this conversation, and she actually shares a lot very honestly and authentically, which I absolutely love. She shared in her story in this podcast episode. And what I loved about where we were at and where we picked up is she is someone who's just so tuned into her purpose. She's so tuned into what she's called to. She is very intuitive. That, as you learn, is actually part of what cultivating guts means and part of one of the pillars of her own framework. But she, in that purpose, is just getting, as generators do, getting bombarded with all of these different amazing ideas and things to do. And she feels like she's just running so hot. And so we really dug through everything that she was working on and gave her, well, I think with her hopping on the call, she was hoping to help me prioritize things with her. And ultimately, what we discovered is that as long as she's taking care of herself and respecting her cycles, that doesn't mean that she has to purposely cull things out. The reason that she came to me with this question is because she's getting a lot of people's expectations put onto her about, like, how do you do so much? And like, you're going to burn yourself out. And the more that we talked into it, it was really interesting to hear just her own process, for her respecting her own cycles, how she respects them, and how she builds that into her business. And through that foundation can really support herself. So it's a truly interesting conversation between her story and just giving her, like, helping her understand how beautiful a place she is in terms of her human design and where she's at in her business, and using her design to help her understand herself better. This was just such a breath of fresh air in terms of a conversation. I absolutely adore Tiffany. She's so fun to talk to. She is so smart, so on top of things, so intuitive. And gosh, her and I talked for like so long after this recorded conversation ended, because I was just absolutely fascinated with her, learning more about her journey and her as a human. So, all right, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the Frequency and Flow podcast with Bree Couric. Today I have an amazing guest, Tiffany Hinton of Cultivating Guts. Tiffany, how are you today?
I am well. I am actually looking forward to this conversation today quite a bit. But yeah, it's a good day.
Awesome. Well, let's just get right into it. Why don't you give a little background to everyone listening about not just what you do right now, but kind of your journey that got you to where you're at today?
Yeah. So my journey I always think of it as 10 years, but I realize it's been longer than 10 years. It's kind of how things happen in life, right? You start doing something and you lose track of time. But it started out with an autoimmune diagnosis that turned into a business of helping other moms with their own autoimmune conditions and children with food allergies, multiple cookbooks, speaking engagements, traveling across the United States, an international bestseller book. Like, there's just been this momentum, and then the world shut down. That's how I like to look at it. But like, everything froze in 2020 and my business came crashing to a halt. I made about 10% of what I had made the previous year in my business, which was a little depressing. And it made me start to realize, like, I need to really rethink about how I do business and what I'm doing. And so that led me back into spirituality, back into questioning, right? Purpose, thinking about like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? And still wanting to know, and deep down knowing that I'm here to help people. I'm here to educate. I'm here to teach people how food is medicine. And that's not really changed, but the whole platform has evolved. My whole like GF Mom certified, the name is still there, but what it used to be around cookbooks and coaching, functional medicine and gluten-free clients and kids with food allergies and all of this travel, 16 to 20 weekends a year being out and about, has all stopped. Most of the books, I had 16 different books that were in print. Most of them are not
Wow.
even printed anymore because of different publishing houses closing and things happening in the world. And
Oh
so
my gosh.
2021, right? Last year, it was like, okay, what do I really want to do? And what was really cool is actually there's my own podcast, Cultivating Guts. I actually interviewed the lady that kind of brought this to my forefront, who is a coach on EQ, so emotional intelligence, and like how do you use your emotions and what's really driving your emotions. And she came to me and she's like, you loved garden, but you never talk about it. But I need your help. And this is how things always get started, I feel like, in business. Somebody needs
Of
your help.
course.
And we ended up building her garden. We built a second garden and ended up like having 10 new gardening clients last year. That's now evolved into the whole Cultivating Guts, Greenwich, brand new branding. And I am one of those people that can't sit still, never could. And people have always questioned me, and this is kind of my question, Brie, is like, they've always said, how do you do it all? And I'm like, I don't know, I just do. But at the same time, it's like, as I'm rebuilding a new brand, as I've got the podcast up and going, we just put out a brand new Greenwich garden planner. I've got monthly webinars going on. We're still writing columns for 2 different magazines. There's like all of these, people call them like plates spinning, balls in the air, whatever analogy you want to use. How do I figure out which one to focus on, but yet keep the others still kind of going so they don't like die or lose engagement?
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I don't think I know we are in a mastermind group together, the Elevate the Globe Elevated Mastermind Collective. Shout out Britt and Tara. And so I knew a little bit about what you do, but I didn't know that full background of what you do. And so that is just incredible. And seeing how you've pivoted during the past couple of years is really inspiring too.
Thank you.
So I would love for you to, so why don't, your question was, you said around kind of getting some clarity. Why don't you share what your actual question was that you wanted us to dive into?
So I really want to know like clarity on when you've got so much happening,
Hmm.
how do I get clear on what is the one thing that I should spend my time on?
Yeah.
Right? What is that piece of dedicated focus for the next moon cycle or for the next 2 weeks or for whatever it is? What is that piece? Because I can tell you there are days like yesterday. Oh my gosh. There's a lot that got done, but I was working on probably 50 different projects in 8 hours,
Yeah. Oh my
which
goodness.
is
Okay. So
mentally and exhausting.
it's so funny. I'm kind of in a cycle of that right now with my own business. So I definitely understand that. I would love for you to share because in the application form, so you mentioned your planner. I would love for
Mhm.
you to just actually, before I even get into that, I would love to know like what is your current experience with human design or like your not just experience but knowledge level of it, just so that we can
Yeah.
start where you're at.
So I was first introduced to it in 2018 by Safar Nafali. She was actually a transplant from California. She's not back in California. And she was all about gene keys. And she would host lunches and she would
Yeah.
talk about the gene keys and how they could relate and want people to do their own research. And so that's where I first started to learn about it. Then I've listened to specific gene keys and human design podcast episodes from Sahara Rose, and then like Brett and Tara had some. And so I've got those pieces. I have went out and downloaded my own report along with my daughters because I was like, let's just look, let's just do some exploring. But do I understand it all? No.
Yeah, it's quite complicated. If you, I mean, it can be simple or you can go down rabbit
Yeah.
holes for sure.
Yeah.
So Tiffany, I mean, I'm sure you know you're a generator, a 1-4 sacral generator, just for everyone listening who does know a little bit. So you have at least a baseline. We'll dive into things that are a little bit more specific, like as I think as we get into this conversation, but just for anyone who's kind of like, ooh, I can't like want to put that into that context. Um, I would love to know. So now, like getting into more of the tactical of the business and kind of figuring that out, I would love, because part of your question too is like, I mean, not just having all of the projects, but I think also like, how do you, this is the word, like integrate all the or like keep
Mhm.
projects, like how do you kind of tie them together or like continue to, not just like do one thing, leave it behind, do one thing, leave it behind. Like you're looking to create an ecosystem within cultivating guts is kind of what I took from your question. Would you say
Mhm.
that's right? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So I would love for you to just explain a little bit about the planner, because I know a little bit, but just for our audience, like what the planner is, and then
Yeah.
maybe how that relates. Because also what you said is you have just so many ideas and projects, so maybe just giving some examples of some of the projects that you have on the plate
Okay.
on your plate right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, so we just launched the Greenwich Garden Planner, which is a 6-month planner for planning out your garden and getting your wish list together, right? And building dream boards and like putting an actual like plan with moon cycles together in so you can set goals for yourself, you can set to-do lists and to-do lists for the universe, and then there's a reflection place for like gratitude at the end of the month. And so the whole idea with cultivating guts is teaching people to cultivate healthy guts, to cultivate, actually like grow things, and then also to use their intuition, right? Whatever spiritual guidance that comes to them. So those are
Yeah,
like the
I love
3
this.
pillars. So when I think about like how does it all integrate, it has to fit one of those pillars around like
Mhm.
either it's around actually cultivating items of growth and food, or it's around your intuition, or it's around your gut health, right? And I feel like they all kind of go together and it's interesting that I'm sacral because it's all like right there in the gut. Um,
It literally is.
so
That's so
interesting
funny.
tie. And so
Yeah.
the planner was a way in which I honestly love to create. And that's a part of me that I will never stop creating. And I've been told by several coaches, like, you just need to do one thing really good and just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And I'm like, I can't, I get bored. So the planner was channeled in about 5 hours. This whole thing came down. It was supposed to be a single page PDF that we were going to give away at a free webinar. And then I ended up with a 42-page planner. I'm like, to the VA. Like, we don't have a single page. We can pick one of the pages, but it's much more than that. And so the planner, that was the idea. It was going to be this one page, and now it's a planner, but it fits with the gardening. It fits with my online platform, which is the Cultivating Guts. So I've got courses on there. That's where we host the webinars, which create more content. And all of that is centered around suburban gardening, homesteading, and like all the different pieces that you need to kind of go from what I like to consider a black thumb to a Greenwich. Like, how do you garden using intuition, biodynamics, not just organics, but like moon cycles and astrology to actually get your crops to be more productive? And that's part of that umbrella that we're building. And then
I love
so
that.
then, Bree, you ask like what else is happening? So I'm building a greenhouse in March, and so we've drawn up plans, and we're adding a greenhouse, and that's going to be more content build, but also then like besides content build, I think it's fun. It's more creativeness. What can I get to grow in a greenhouse? Like a big I was going to do a 4 by 12, but I think it's going to be an 8 by 12 because now it's growing. We've committed to getting chickens. So that's a whole nother project. And then that'll probably lead to podcast guest on my own podcast around raising chickens. And again, more content around how do you use the biodynamics of chicken poop or chickens to do, in a garden, they can eat the bugs for you. There's a whole bunch of pieces there that fit into that cultivating space. Um, and so those are projects coming, and I don't even know what's coming in the fall. It's just I know there's stuff, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so I love that there's an like definitely an online element, but there's also an offline element. I'm kind of curious, like as so when you're talking about is the focus then, I mean, when you talk about your niche and it's like you've been told to focus in, but it's more of, um, you know, like how would you describe your niche right now? Like with this, with the Cultivating Guts
Yeah.
umbrella and empire
Um,
that you're building.
that niche is definitely, I feel like, a suburban homesteader or somebody wanting to be a suburban homesteader.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that, so I love this. I mean, have, I love how you have it broken up into three pillars. And I love that you know to come back to that with everything you do. And so I feel, I don't know that you need to focus on that. I think, yeah, in terms of, so one thing, like pulling from your human design, the first thing that I saw that really is you're describing is just very characteristic of this is you have a defined head. So head up here, and then a defined ajna center. And those, like that combination, well, if you have a defined head, you're going to have a defined ajna. That's just how human design is. But you have this mental pressure to like find answers and to like find answers to your questions, or you're going to have a lot of ideas and inspiration just like come through consistently, which is like almost verbatim the way that you describe that. I'm like, oh, that is like 100% textbook, the defined head and the defined ajna. And then at the same time, you have the defined root center and defined sacral center, which the root center is also a pressure center. So you have this consistent, and that's the pressure center of like doing. So you have the pressure
Mm,
of like the ideas and the inspiration coming at you all the time, and then the pressure to do. And so I feel like I see that very much in how you described your like, I just feel like I'm overwhelmed with so many things and I want to do them. And I think so one thing that has come through, like I think part of that is just kind of take, like I love this so much just because you do work in cycles. So it's like, how do you work cycles into your own business? Because with that, you also have this channel that connects your sacral center to your root center, which is all about like cycles and honoring cycles and like pulsing cycles. So I'm curious what you do now to kind of honor those cycles in your business to give yourself that reflection time.
that
And
is
not
a
even
such,
reflection, but
yeah,
the winter period of your
yeah.
business.
It's interesting to tie those together, and I hadn't really thought about it in that perspective. But the week of the new moon, physically don't feel well. I never do. And so we don't do a lot. My Instagram's pretty quiet. There's not a lot going on. But the week of the full moon, like this week when we're recording this, like I've got a podcast. I've got a webinar in the evening. We've got full moon classes and prompts happening. We've got like all this stuff happening. And even my VA was like, there's a lot this week. And so it is interesting as you bring that up, like the cycles, because I do feel like my reflection time is the new moon. And that's where I'm a
Mhm.
lot like slower and quieter and just kind of sitting on things. I'm also really now more in the last year when ideas come to me, if I'm like in meditation or something just hits, I am more inclined to write it down and to let it sit for a month or two before I go back and have action on it, unless it's like really like hitting me where, no, you need to do this right now. So, like with the
Yeah.
chickens, I put them on the vision board. I even said, I'm not committing to this. They're just here to look at. Um, and I think you know Heather Kornman. And so we've been
Hmm.
having this whole discussion. And then about 2 weeks ago, I'm like, I committed to the chickens. And she's like, what? I'm like, I did. I spent like 8 hours researching chickens. It's probably my head again. Um, and I found the hatchery and I found a coop and I found all these different pieces and it all fell together in one day. And now we have like a order chicken coop day and we have a build chicken coop day on the calendar. But there is space. So like we're not actually ordering the coop till April. We're not building it till May, and we're not actually ordering chickens till almost June this year.
That's so interesting. Well, that you say, well, the way that you just, so you're also a 1-4 profile. So you have that one, which is the researcher, which also like comes through really strongly when you're just like saying, like you've done all, you committed, then you did all this research and you feel like you're like in a good spot. So that's just so, I love just, I'm pointing this out because I just love hearing like your design in action and just allowing that. I think so. You do have natural rest cycles built in, and I absolutely love that you, because it's like you're gonna have, so you, like what I was kind of starting to get at, but what you're describing too is that you have pressure coming in from ideas and you have pressure to act. And so I think part of just what you do is just having awareness of that pressure is always going to exist. And maybe you like, for because I have the root center, and it's like I have the defined root center, and to me it's always like I feel like I'm behind, or I feel like I need to be doing something. And I think you can't stop that necessarily, but you can bring more awareness to it. And I think in regards to you just like taking notes or putting it on a vision board, I think that's really an important step. I don't think you have to wait necessarily that long, but it might be something where it needs to come back a few times, and then you're using your gut to like make decisions on that. And I think you do a good job of that. I'm just saying you don't need to slow your, like as
Mm-hmm.
a generator with the design that I see that you have, like you don't have to slow yourself down. Like, yes, you don't want to just act on everything that comes through, but you don't need to like slow yourself down if you're feeling really, really called to it. And it kind of like comes back, you're like getting the constant signs or synchronicities, and you're like, okay, this keeps coming back and this keeps feeling really, really good. You don't have to like purposely slow down, like put brakes on
Yeah,
it if you're feeling the momentum behind it,
that's good to
you
hear.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think, where was I? I just lost my train of thought on that. I think one thing that's also interesting with your design, so you have an undefined G center. And so I think like you are not meant to be one identity or one niche. And so what I do love about what, like, I mean, yes, it's good to, from a marketing, I'm speaking from two sides of the coin, from like human design side and then a marketing side. Like on a marketing side, it's important that you know who you're speaking to and you're speaking to them clearly. On the human design side, it's like, is an undefined G center, you're kind of meant to evolve. So your niche might kind of evolve. So as you grow into this, like cultivating chickens and like adding to your garden and adding the greenhouse, and like that is meant to happen. So I don't want you to feel like you have to like come back and stay on one thing if it doesn't
Yeah.
fit or you feel like you've outgrown it. And this kind of goes into your sacral center, and just being a generator in general is following what does light you up. And so I feel like that undefined G center with the defined sacral is like allowing yourself to follow what really lights you up and what feels right, and not feeling like, I don't know, not feeling constricted by it or feeling like you have to like rein yourself in.
Mm-hmm. That's good to hear, Brie. Yeah, because I remember like all of marketing classes for like 15 years are always like one thing, one thing, and I'm like I can't do one thing. I don't know what's wrong with me.
There's nothing wrong.
Nothing is wrong with me. It's
We're
just
meant
not
to
meant to
grow. We're
be.
meant to grow and evolve. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not just you being a generator. That's not just like your human design, but we're meant to grow and evolve. I mean, I could point to things in your human design, like also your defined root center, that like that's a focus on evolution and you growing and personally growing. And so it's like telling you to just like focus on one thing is like that just is so constricting, and that is like very dampening to your energy. Um, Whereas having that freedom, but then like, so that's like, right, that's your design, that's your energy, that's your soul, like that's like you stepping into your purpose. And then from a marketing side, it's like, well, how do you continue to do that? And then like not simplify, but like streamline and be more concise in your marketing, which is why like perhaps like the framework that you have, is like making sure everything ties back to that, and letting your audience know that everything's kind of tying. It's like, oh, this chicken coop goes with this pillar, or like, I mean, you don't have to be
Mm.
so cut and
Mm-hmm.
dry, but like maybe as you're sharing your build of your chicken coop in your marketing content, you also reference like, oh, and this fits this pillar, and this is how it's like helping this pillar, and you just kind of like circle back to those things to like kind of, it's like you're setting, this is actually so relates to your conscious sun placement, but it's like setting the structure of,
Mm-hmm.
or like a framework, but giving you freedom to like allow the magic to flow, allow you to grow and evolve and like pursue what you feel pulled towards. It's like having enough structure, but also this is gate 60, your conscious sun is, it's like called the gate of limitations, but ultimately it's like it's at its highest frequency or its highest level. It's the balance of having some structure, but also allowing room for like what they say in Gene Keys is like room for magic to flow,
Gotcha.
and like having a container for that magic to kind of take form. And so I can definitely see that in terms of how you could balance that marketing with you need to focus on one thing. It's like, no, you don't need to focus on one thing. It's like, can you have enough structure that people who you're speaking to understand what you're speaking about while giving yourself the freedom to do what lights you up?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Good stuff.
Yeah. Um, I also kind of want to talk about like getting to your
Yeah.
original question. It's just so many things like just start flying out. And like we is really like, so when it comes to just the things that you have in your day, like I almost want to just ask of say what's on your plate this week, and we can get into specifics. We don't have to get into specifics, but are there things that you're doing? Like, is everything that you're doing like exciting to you, or are there things that you're doing that feel that you're doing because you feel like you have to do them, or that
Yeah.
there's some sort of agenda to them that's outside of because it like makes you excited?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a great question. I will tell you that I don't do anything that I don't want to do anymore. Even if that's the dishes, they'll sit in our kitchen for 2 days and somebody else in our house will do them eventually. And I know a lot of women would be like, what? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that, but it's true. And so there's a lot that I do that because it does excite me and it makes me excited. But there's also things yet, yes, like I'll just take today, for example. I've not done a meditation yet. I did get up early, but then I focused on the girls this morning, getting them out the door, which meant straightening one of their hair because they decided they needed straight hair today. So little things like that happen. And then I had all day yesterday off, which was awesome, but there was so much that happened that was still just like crazy. So yesterday we had a branding photo shoot. I burned a whole bunch of stuff I found in my office, and we were putting it back together after the branding photo shoot to release it, preparing for the full moon. That was not planned, but it was fun. Huge bonfire.
I love that.
Um, right? Old business cards, old whatever marketing. I was like,
Yeah.
it's all going away. Then we cleaned the office. Then yesterday we played singing bowls for a while, made recordings of singing bowl videos, made charcuterie boards, took kids to practice, went to the grocery store to buy chocolate for no apparent reason, went to Trader Joe's and bought flowers, made flower crowns. Like my day was like everywhere. But like today, so people ready for school, then juice in the morning, checked corporate emails, started preparing my taxes, which actually I finished about 30 minutes before we got on the phone. So my taxes are submitted all to the accountant. So
Yeah,
that's done.
amazing.
Did I want to do that? No. Did I enjoy it? No, but it has to be done. So, but I can't really pay anybody else to do that right there. Then I had a couple of corporate meetings, which I enjoy my corporate job. So that's something that I think is unusual for some people, but I honestly do enjoy it. We're doing this. What else am I doing today? I'm going to go set up a miniature low hoop house today because there's no snow and it's 50 degrees. I have a seed
Yeah.
starting webinar tonight. Like it's just, it all flows and I'm excited about everything throughout the day. And then I'm going to do like a full moon ritual today because it's the full moon and eventually do
Yes.
my Kriya. Yeah. And then we'll figure out what's for supper later, or I'll just pay and order it in.
Yeah. I mean, here's a like I feel like you're feeling guilt or like you need to slow things down when maybe you don't have to. Like do you feel the pressure like you're doing too much? I don't know. Like I are you
No,
saying that because you feel like there's some external pressure, or are you feeling like
it's external, if anything. It's the people questioning, like, how do you do all of this? Are you sure you need to do all of this? And I think to what you just said, it is completely external comments that get to my subconscious.
yeah. Because the way you describe I mean, to me, you're just, yeah, there's little tweaks we can make to your human design. And if we had more time, I feel like there's things we could for sure dive into and make little tweaks. But as far as like, to me, it feels like you have so much dialed in already. And so it's more of just like, I almost feel like I'm here to just give you some permission that if you feel excited about it, who cares what other people say? You're a generator. And so you have two motor centers defined. You have your sacral center and then your root center. And when you're lit up and you're that, and you're excited about everything you do, or besides the little things like taxes that you just have, like you can't get around that. You got to do them, even though they don't like, I don't know who they actually light up, but no one, but it's like, I just feel, I don't know. I feel like in a way it's like, I just want to tell you that like the way that you're designed and the way that you're acting are very much in alignment. And maybe it's a matter of just saying, you know what, like, I feel good and I'm excited about this. And, maybe sure, there's some things that I could put on pause. Like maybe it might be a matter of just re-examining, like, do I have to do this today? Do I want to do this today? Do I feel like I should do this today? And like, there's some things that, of course, when you're dealing with your children, like those things just need to get done today. Like there's no way around it. But if you ever are feeling like, if you feel good about everything and you feel the day, like finish the day and you feel your keyword, right, is like satisfied. You feel really good about everything you did. You feel energized by everything you did. And you're like, yeah, this is great. Then who cares what other people say? You're designed to have that kind of energy and get this much stuff done. Like that's very clear in your human design chart. So
that's good to hear, actually.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, as a projector personally, I'm like, man, I wish I had some of that energy because I'm just not so much like that. But at the same time, it's like we all have our own gifts. And I think, I mean, it's like surround yourself with the right people who kind of understand that. And if you weren't taking legit rest cycles, like if you were just going all the time without taking the time to reflect, I might like, that might be something. But it's like, if you are actually taking that time and reflecting and just kind of realigning, like, I don't know if you actually do this. This is probably part of your well, because I know we're in the same mastermind. This is definitely part of our process. But just for anyone listening, is like taking the reflection time to not just like slow down and rest, but to just kind of like realign, like be like, okay, what is on my plate? What still feels good? Great. What doesn't feel good? Okay. And like kind of take that time to just, it's almost like rebalance the scales a little bit. If there's anything that did from the last cycle, like felt off or weird. But like, like I said, I feel like it's just here. I'm just here to kind of give you permission that it's okay. And to just kind of grow and evolve and, as you want. And, that's like from your personal journey perspective. And then from a marketing perspective, it's just about like, how can you kind of keep that clear so that people understand who you are, what you do, and how you help them.
So that they don't become confused. Yeah.
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 Because I think like the fact that you have this framework is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Because some people that I speak to, they don't even have that quite understood yet. And I feel like it just comes with experience and time. Like if you're just starting, like some people I've spoken to are like literally just starting their business and it's like, yeah, they're still kind of figuring that out. But having that, or just being consistent with how you message things too, or just like, it's okay to repeat things in what you say, or like, oh yeah, like I've talked about this before, but now this is my new perspective on things because of X, Y, and Z. Like maybe once you start adding chickens to your homesteading, like that might change some things that you had taught or talked about earlier, but that doesn't mean you can't circle back and like make something better, like make like an offer that you have better. Yeah. That's like, I mean, that's totally part of how you're designed, I think it's really interesting too, just that you do like a big pillar of what you do is like your gut, like literally your intuition. And you have, so it's like, you have this interesting balance because you have the defined head, defined ajna. So you're like getting a lot of stuff, like you're downloading, channeling a lot of stuff in your intuition, but your splenic center is undefined. And so what you're also really good at is like helping people understand their own intuition. So you have kind of like a direct channel or direct connection to source, but then it's like you also, part of what you do is like to help people tap into their own intuition a little bit better if they're feeling a little bit all over the place.
Or like, interesting. That's that whole coaching realm.
Yeah, it is. There's definitely a lot
that's my whole corporate life is coaching.
Because there's a lot of coaching potential in here. Because you also have the undefined emotional center. So there's like a lot of like, the EQ stuff, like that makes so much sense to me. I mean, and also that you had a coach that kind of helped you tap into that a little bit, or like kind of guided you. But then like, cause when you come into contact with people, you help them with it, like understand their emotions a little bit better. Um, that was not related to your question. That's just kind of what I'm like
It's
noticing.
just so interesting, though. So
It
interesting.
is. But I mean, I guess I know we kind of were a little bit all over the place, but I would just love if there's any, like, I want to make sure that this is like you walk away with here and feel like there's something tactical that you can do. I know a lot of what we talked about was just confirming, a lot of
Mhm.
confirmation from a standpoint. But is there, like, from here, is there anything, I guess, is there anything you want clarity on, or is there anything like you want help creating action steps, or do you feel like you have a good idea of what you can take from here and implement or make changes to once we hang up or
Yeah.
hang up on the call?
It's really like the permission thing is awesome. I know even as adults, we still feel like we need permission sometimes. And knowing that like, and I didn't know when I looked at the design, like what all those little things mean when they show the body. So that's cool. I think for me, knowing that I really need to not just do it because I feel like it, but I need to do it even when I don't feel like it, like take the rest period, take the reflection. Um, Even if I feel wonderful on a new moon, which never happens, but if it does, like still just take that to feel wonderful and go sit in the tub or something, or right, or sit at the beach. And that's good to know, like to build that structure in as I'm thinking about things and I'm planning for the year ahead. Because I do like to plan around the moon anyway. I think that's cool, Brie. From an action standpoint, tactically for me, also knowing that every time I build my social content calendars for like the Instagram and all of the different posting, like I should probably check and say, do they fit the pillars? Not just does it feel good to talk about, but does it actually align? And if it doesn't, why am I talking about it? Is something evolving? And just question that a little bit.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say don't. Like, if you're feeling really lit up about talking about something, I wouldn't say don't do it, but maybe I, I feel like there's a few ways you could go about it, like you could talk about it and just be like, this is just something I'm exploring. That's me. I don't know. It's like you could position it that way. You could, like, I don't want you to limit yourself, like, because this is
Yeah.
such a big part of like is sharing your journey and your growth and connecting. We didn't really talk about the 4 line that you have unconsciously, but that's like about networking and connecting and things. It's like, so I don't want you to like hold yourself back, but yeah. So I feel like just don't, like, I just want to like bring that
Yeah.
forward. Don't feel like you have to hold yourself back, but yeah, tying it back to things where you can, or um yeah, connecting the dots. Sorry, I totally interrupted
No,
you, but I was like, no, don't limit yourself. I was like, no, no, I don't want you to do that.
it's all good. It's all good. This is so helpful.
Yay, awesome. So before we hop off here, why don't you share if someone's listening and they want to, or share how they can find you and how they can work with you?
Yeah. So over on Instagram, we are still on 2 channels. So it's at GF Mom Certified or at Cultivating Guts. And then www.cultivatingguts.com. I will emphasize the www is needed right now. Something in the back end is still not. Anyway, that's a whole computer world of DNS that I don't quite understand. I just know it's needed. So but those are the easiest ways to find me, to find some of our free classes and content, and also to schedule time if you do want to work with me for a garden consult. And those can be remote. I don't have to come to your backyard. We can actually do it on camera with your phone.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So fun. Thank you so much, Tiffany.
Thank you so much, Brie.
So, how incredible is Tiffany and how amazing was that conversation? She is just so wicked smart and so fast. Like, she was just so much fun to talk to, and the conversation was so dynamic. And what I absolutely loved about that conversation is it was another conversation where, and this is the beauty of human design, is that a lot of times what human design is a great tool for is helping give that validation and giving that like confidence boost of confirming and validating what you already know to be true. So Tiffany came into this conversation. She was kind of, she was blocking herself. She was holding herself back because other people couldn't understand what, like, her generator energy when she was fully lit up and respecting not just what lit her up, but releasing things that she doesn't light up and respecting her own cycles in terms of her own energy. Like she is an unstoppable force. And she was the what people around her were reflecting back to her is like, how do you do this? And it was almost like not jealousy, but a lot of people just questioning or projecting onto her that she's going to burn herself out. And so a lot of what we talked about there, as you saw, was just how to just, make sure that she's still respecting her cycles and letting go of what other people are projecting onto her, because as long as she feels is good and is lit up and is excited by everything she's doing and getting rid of the things she doesn't, then that's fine. She doesn't need to hold herself back just to please others or to seem more normal, quote unquote, normal in the eyes of regular people who don't understand what a generator who's truly in her power looks like. So I think this is so fun. As someone who is married to a generator, who knows lots of generators, I really see like that power of when someone, what I liked about her too, and just the power of seeing someone who knows what they don't like and either is delegating it or just saying, I'm just not doing that, and kind of making it clear with the universe that that's not happening, so that she, in this case, can focus more on the things she loves and just do it, like just living every day like to its fullest in the things that she loves to do. So had so much fun with her, and what a great example of a generator living her design. So, if you're looking for more guidance as to how you can integrate your own personal human design blueprint into your business, you can start with some of the free and low cost resources that I have, including the masterclass New Paradigm Entrepreneurship Using Human Design. You can find the link below in the episode description. And if you learned something new or there's something that we talked about that really resonated with you, I would absolutely love to meet you. Share your favorite part of the episode on your Instagram stories and tag me at Brie Couric, or send me a DM and just say hello and share what you loved about the episode. I can't wait to hear from you.